My name is Kate Gaskin. I am the mentorship director, and I've also worked as a poetry editor for the Adroit Journal for many years. And I'm so happy to spotlight our readers, including our Adroit Prize and our new Editors Prize winners today, as well as just some general poets that we're publishing in the new issue, which drops Thursday. So I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first reader. Our first reader is also our prize winner, Nike Brima is a Nigerian American poet based in New York City and originally hailing from the Bay Area. He's a graduate of Yale University, and his work has previously been featured in Yale Literary Magazine. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone. It's very inspiring to see that you all have chosen to spend your Tuesday night listening to poetry. I'm also very, very honored to be reading alongside many incredible poets. So I'm going to be reading a couple of poems, two or three. We'll see how we feel. But I'm going to start with the poem that will be featured in the issue, and then we'll kind of work from there. So this is Still Life with Roses, Wyeth's Christina's World, and a poem by Larry Levis in my lap. I met a man who could fuck like a country road. Narrow, winding, no guardrails, no destination, just an occasional mailbox tipped over like a tired saint. He told me once he used to sit in church and imagine getting head during communion. He meant it as confession. I took it as biography. There are worse things than being the body someone returns to after prayer, but none of them are more American. By then, I had read Frank Bidart's Herbert White so many times, I started to think of intimacy as excavation, that if you just dug deep enough through the guilt and horniness and broken latches of the self, you'd find a clean room. You don't. No, instead, I think I love like the girl in the Wyeth painting loves her own futility, arms dragging her forward, legs forgotten in the grass behind her like old tools. That's not love, exactly, but it's a good impersonation. Meanwhile, this man I loved shaved in the dark because he said the light gave him headaches. I read Larry Levis in bed and cried at the part where he talks about watching himself fade from the photograph like a bad idea. He didn't notice, or maybe he thought crying was another kind of sex. I like art because it is something that lets me witness without intervening. Sometimes I just want to be something beautiful arranged by someone else and left alone. I still have the roses he bought me from Walmart. They smell like plastic, but I know they are real because they are dying very, very slowly. All right. And this one is called August Diagnoses. The summer I did nothing wasn't the summer everything fell apart. It was the one after. By then, the dust had settled into its new role. The phone rang less, which was a relief. Time began to feel like something with edges, a room you could walk into, place your hand on the wall, know what was yours to touch. There were no signs, just the steady procession of mornings with their modest intentions. The peaches, growing pinker in their bowl, ants finding the softest one and taking it slowly, piece by piece, into the cracked seam of the porch. I sit with the sun filling the nooks behind my collarbones, thinking of the word invasive, how gently it sounds, how quietly it enters the room. Meanwhile, my list of undone things has begun to breed again, colonizing the fridge, the walls, the soft meat of my mornings. The basil bolts, the tomatoes split from within. Some things ripen only to open. Some things open and never close again. and I'll do one more. This one is called Nightway. It's autumn, and the fields are giving in with such grace. Goldenrod wavers in the gravel seam, leaning toward every passing truck like a child. Sumac stains the ditch with its slow bruise, and the milkweed has split, seeds lifting in fits, soft-bellied, half-committed to flight. The crickets, unafraid of the asphalt, have begun their minute wars with their thin battle cries. You're driving, and I'm watching the sun-peeled barns flash bare against the moonlight, a gleam like wet teeth. You say, we should stop for gas. I say, let's keep going, even though the tank's been warning us for miles, the light blinking, its small, soft terror, a little sun we carry into the dark. Right. That's all from me. Thank you all very much. Kate, I don't know if you want to jump back in here.
That was so beautiful. Thank you, Nikkei. Um, gosh, I'm going to be thinking of intimacy as excavation for a really long time. That is incredible. Love Christina's world too. I think that's such an interesting painting. And then the little sun carrying that sun into the dark with the with the light and the coming on in the gas. I don't know. It's just very beautiful. So thank you so much for reading those poems. Our next reader is Maggie Dietz. Maggie Dietz is the author of the poetry collections If You Would Let Me, That Kind of Happy, and Perennial Fall. The founding director of the Favorite Poem Project. She teaches at the University of Massachusetts Lowell.
Hi, what a total honor and delight to be here. Nikkei, those were incredible poems. And I think I'm one of the elders here, and it's a total delight to be reading with young poets. And it's one of the things I love about Adroit. Um, I'm going to read the two poems that are in the journal. One is a little bit longer. Um, the first not so long. Neither is super long. Don't get scared. Um, Thanks for being here. Embrace. Years, I think, I spent in the kitchen wishing the imprint of your herringbone sweater into my skin. Years disrobing potatoes, pinching salt, hoisting scalding cast iron onto racks. My ear on your shoulder, fug of oysters and strawberries from under your lifted arms. Months on months of spelt and thyme and crisped chicken thighs. My back a door, your hand thumped softly. Years I folded napkins into birds, set plates you'd transfer to a tray and take upstairs. I moved the chairs to mop, but you'd outgrown the game that made the hallway row of them a train. When I made the eggless cake, nobody laughed when vinegar hit the hump of soda. Your coarser hair, a cruder color, mopped my cheek. Whole calendars elapsed with me kneading and whisking and you notching inches onto the wall. Years I was the vinegar, moon upon moon, cans in and out of the pantry. You didn't even clear your throat the afternoon you found me hunched at the cutting board, back to the door, wearing my stained, striped apron. So in my new book, there's several poems titled Metamorphosis. This is one of them, the most literal among them, I think. Metamorphosis. In white sunlight, we unzipped the lid of the habitat, a miniature pop-up hamper. The butterflies had arrived by mail, still worms, spindled and sharp-looking, little tailless seahorses unfurling in a plastic tub with goo at the bottom like suet, the caterpillar's food, dotted with frass. I didn't point out that they shit where they eat or that painted ladies sounds like a polite term for prostitutes. We were to keep them misted and away from bright windows. The webbing wasn't worrisome, we read. In the wild, it kept them stuck to plants, and they could pull the silk to close a leaf around them and hide from bad guys. For days, nothing happened. You hunched next to the buffet, watching yourself watch them in the mirror. From the doorway, I watched the way your hair curled at the base of your neck as you sweated, the way your t-shirt, when you sprayed the mister, showed your tan lines. You were there when one let go a ghost, a gauze of skin almost too soft to see. After we moved the paper disc affixed with shivering crystallides, after more boring, thrilling days of waiting, the pods darkened and the first one ruptured into a crumpled butterfly, a bald batik handkerchief spilling from a pocket. Next came the slow calico explosion, the beating and pulsing that burst the wings into being. You may not remember, but I do. You were beside yourself, pulsing, triumphant. 4 hatchings and 2 days of sugar water later, it was time to let them go. You weren't sad. We'd read it was the right thing. You toted the mesh cylinder out to the picnic table and opened the flap just enough to let one land. A leftover scuff of polish on your fingernail. Your teeth still short and rounded, 2 rows of sugar pearl corn. The sun shone down as one by one you gave them to the sky. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maggie. That was so beautiful. I'm going to be thinking of that final image of the caterpillars being, well, now butterflies being released for a long time. But also, I love the way that I love your image for peeling potatoes, disrobing potatoes. And I now every time I peel a potato, I'm going to think to myself that I'm disrobing potatoes, and it's going to make that process actually nice instead of terrible. Next, we have Eliza Gilbert. Eliza is a recent graduate of Vassar College. Her poetry can be found or is forthcoming in the Kenyon Review, the Three Penny Review, the Iowa Review, the Adroit Journal, Frontier Poetry, and others. She received the 2023 Iowa Review Award for Poetry, as well as Lit Mag's 2023 Virginia Woolf Award for Short Fiction. She was born and raised in New York City, and she is also a finalist for the Adroit Prizes. All right, well, thank you, and we're excited to hear what you have.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I mean, this is such incredible company. Nikkei and Maggie, those were amazing and just so fun to hear, and I'm so excited to read them again on paper. It's going to be a great double experience. I'm just going to read 2 poems that are appearing in the issue and see where that takes our timing. So this is called In the Evening Medline. Sometimes, Henry, sometimes I can really believe we were born here. The feeling's brief and silver. It keens like a needle in the dark. But when it comes dead certain. It's a stone-like smell. It's an origin quarry. One whiff and I know you ultrasonically. Yesterday, or maybe tomorrow, I caught it in the hallway when the good nurse, with the olive branch tattoo slung cross and wise along her collarbone, reached out to adjust your tube and you rolled your big scared eyes and muttered, "Thanks, Mom." And the good nurse said, "Oh, please," and smiled real. Sometimes, Henry, I think we might refract each other. Like in the evening medline, when every set of special socks starts to scrabble against the speckle, and we're night at the museuming the moonlight. The courtesies are waltzing, Henry. What's the togetherness harder than swallowing at the same time? Post gulp, post haste, we tumble towards the prelude, the box step before the dip and whirl. Paper cups of pill and pivot, the throat chalked like a gymnast's palms, and it's bile dust, and then it's gone, Henry. And Paige does a jump like a bird falling. The dusk puckers. I can see us from the outside of the group room, dangling just beyond the plexiglass, in the wind, in the wind up, waiting for the oldest song. Proto-psychic, halibut mouthed when the trazodone hits. Me with the smudgy hair, and you with the teeth like cotton swabs, fuzzing up the amnio. Hystericos, Annie whispers, making marbles of her sandwich crusts, losing them under the dinner table. From the Greek, of the womb. And if not born here, born where? So the second one is called Hellhound Elegy. So I let him play for me, unbolted the eyelids, watched him hymn his way inside. All anyone wants is an enemy who can sing them to sleep. And who cares about the liar? The boy was enough. A weepy boy, an exigent contralto, skin like saran-wrapped sunfish. Enough. Blood can be worn, can be sported. Blood has no antonym unless swallowed. And what is there to be if not hungry? Honey cakes under the table, capfuls of black brandy, the inlet of an arrow through the flank. I am not above a tender ransom. What's your excuse? What's your damage control policy? Mine rambles about sleeping dogs, bald ankles, titanium accoutrements. Nightly, a presyncope in which the skull-capped gates come wired with a ring camera, and I am at last relieved. Always awake, always dreaming of the staff, eye on my middle crown, disambiguation at a whisper, good boy. Then, like a downstairs Argos, I might know him well enough to leave him. The sunrise, the uptake, the aftertaste of a turned prophet. These days I am more incinerator than not. The visitors flicker like doorknobs. They stay or they are swallowed, spick and span, dust among dust. I am reaching like a hand towards a taxi. All of this wood smoke, unwilded. All of this cauterized mercy. In this essay I will. In this ashtray I will. Who among us hasn't been loved, then vaporized by a southbound shadow? Sick, stet, epithet. I want Lord to become knuckle-sized, to fit again, teething, keening, in the palm of a handbasket. Thank you guys so much.
Incredible. Thank you, Eliza. Gosh, what a wonderful stone-like smell. What a wonderful, very, very distinct description. I'll be thinking about that a lot, as well as your line, I'll know you ultrasonically. That's incredible. Thank you so much. Those were very just lovely, lovely poems. Next, we have Jenny Mulberg. Jenny Mulberg's third poetry collection, The Court of No Record, was a Los Angeles Times Book Prize finalist. Her poems and essays have recently appeared or are forthcoming in the Adroit Journal, the American Poetry Review, Agni, the Kenyon Review, the Missouri Review, Oprah Quarterly, and other publications. Her work has received support from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, the Hambridge Center, the Sewanee Writers Conference, the Vermont Studio Center, and the Longleaf Writers Conference. She is professor of writing, literature, and publishing, and editor-in-chief of Plowshares at Emerson College.
Hi, everybody. Eliza, wow, 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 wow. That was incredible. And Nike and Maggie, what an honor. What beautiful poems. Thanks so much, Kate, for hosting. And thanks, Heidi and Peter and Chris and everyone at Adroit. I love you all. It's just such an honor to be reading alongside such brilliant poets tonight. Um, so I'm just going to read my poem from the issue because it is 3 pages long. And this poem will come out in a new book, details forthcoming, that centers mostly around the life of Elaine de Kooning. So if you're not familiar with Elaine's work, you might be familiar with Willem de Kooning, her husband, and that's kind of the point of a lot of these poems, to grapple with the ways that patriarchal gatekeeping overshadows and silences many people in the arts, professionally and in the home. So through an unlikely series of events, my grandmother, who is 90 years old, but she was an English teacher in East Texas, she became friends with Elaine de Kooning, and she painted several members of my family. So hopefully you can see this. Here's Elaine painting my grandmother in 1970. Um, and so I'm playing around with ekphrasis to deal with family systems of addiction and my own experiences with sexual assault and queer relationships and pain in its many iterations. So this one is called ecstasis. My therapist asks me first if I've ever self-harmed. Here is what I'm looping on. Here is my containment box. Here is where bilateral movement can be a kind of aesthetic practice for survival. I'm wearing the perfume called Elegy. When I think about the hall of dead people, I look under my feet. How beautiful and mossy they smell. Dissociation is a good tool. Taking off the self feels sexy as a clean bathroom. In the neutral room, all the tethers fall away. Healing is not linear, so it swirls at the drain. Every line knows the frown like a wound, like the generosity in saying a person did the best they could. The old clock ringing in the library. I fell in love with the artist playing the piano. I fell in love with the way their pajama pants made a blanket for the black bench and the way I became stupid around them, envying their cigarettes. The language of translation is spiritual. There are things we are holding in the dark night of language. Welcome to the throat church. Welcome to the night church of my throat. The craft is a wingspan, a reach into an unarmed trauma of childhood. The craft is mother. Joan Mitchell's Joan Mitchell's mother was a poet. Elaine de Kooning's mother was neglectful, Catholic, a sorceress. Helene, Helen Frankenthaler described her mother as Valkyrian. She was like her father, like me. Often when I'm angriest, she said, I'm at my funniest. My husband says, you can actually die if you color yourself entirely in Sharpie. I think this statement shows how choosing them was choosing myself in all the best ways. I am a 21st century lake poet. I walk straight into the water to flood out the intrusive thoughts. Elaine de Kooning's Veronica implies a man, the matador, the picadores like musical instruments, his suit of light, the golden underside of the cloak. I hate this. I hate even thinking about a man in a cape. The craft takes the side of the bull. She removed the murderous man. She glorified the bull. My grandmother gave me 2 sketches for this painting, which hung over my sofa until my abuser took me to court, and I had to sell them to pay for the lawyer. The time has come for all men to refuse to be killed, Elaine de Kooning wrote in her scrapbook about Carol Chessman, the serial rapist. I myself have a very special loathing for the rapist, and apparently Chessman was guilty of this crime. How are we going to get rid of murder, she wrote, when governments condone it? My ending is despair, she wrote. when Chessman was murdered by the government. In my marriage, my biggest worry is that if I behave like a married person, and then if I behave like a married person, then the love will just become cardboard, and then wet cardboard, and then pulp, and then there's nothing left to write on. The female nude was forbidden in almost all public art schools as late as 1850 and after. My earliest form of protest was called tomboy. I wrote a poem after I was sexually assaulted and brought it to workshop. My professor said that the experience of disembodiment would be more believable if the speaker were a man. Andre Malraux said, the fascination of the forbidden is the requisite of the erotic. In a 1965 Art Forum interview that I find very hot, Helen Frankenthaler said, there are colors, and the question is what they are doing with themselves and with each other. Sentiment and nuance are being squeezed out. The one teacher I admire says that nuance is a form of resistance. This is what you've always been made to feel, my artist friend says, that you're too loud and you're too much and you should shut the fuck up. I fake my own death in the virtual realm. It's an ecstasy. I vanish the reservoir of other people, all with their agendas for me. My therapist says my focus stays locked on the damage when it should be focused on recovery. In a classical body, Aphrodite gestures to her sex organs. In Christian culture, we gesture towards shame, body dysmorphia, a preoccupation with whiteness, replicas of Aphrodite everywhere, not hot. My classical body has been scalpeled 3 times. Pieces of my meniscus, breasts, and spine in trash cans marked medical waste. How little we knew Sappho, my friend says. Maybe she had a healthy way of expressing primal anger. One of Willem de Kooning's women is covered in what looks like bullet holes. Elaine clarified, they were very chic rubies that would be applied to the skin. Bill had seen them in an issue of Harper's Bazaar. Like Elaine de Kooning, I used to laugh when someone tried to hit me. We are happy. We are. What we don't have, what we are looking for, is peace. Thank you.
Just incredible, Jenny. Thank you so much. That's got me so hyped for your next book. And just such a powerhouse poem. And again, just like now, whenever I peel potatoes, I'm going to say to myself that I'm disrobing the potatoes. Whenever I'm disassociating, I'm going to think that I feel sexy as a clean bathroom, because that's an amazing image. Thank you so much for that image. Next, we have Wei Japan, who is the author of Motherlands, selected by Louise Glick for the 2023 Max Ritva Poetry Prize and winner of the 2025 Levis Reading Prize. A poet and translator from Shanghai, China, his poems have appeared in Agni, Boulevard, Cincinnati Review, Georgia Review, Poetry Daily, Poem a Day, and elsewhere. He received an MFA in poetry from the University of Houston, where he was a winner of the Paul Verlaine Prize in Poetry. He is currently a Stegner Fellow at Stanford University. Welcome, Wei Jia.
Hi, thank you, Kate and Maggie. It's such an honor for me to be here. And I'm just going to be reading the final listed poem, and it's called Quadriptych of Terrible Situations. So quadriptych is originally means a painting divided into 4 sections or panels. And for this poem, I essentially wrote a series of 4 sonnets, with the last line of the first sonnet serving as the first line of the second sonnet, and the pattern goes on. So, quadriptych of terrible situations. Someone waiting for an elevator, someone turning on a light, someone flying a kite and losing it, someone planting 2 date trees in the yard and imagine stating, someone writing a short story, Some poet ushers in a century of sadness. Some F words whispered to the empty clouds. Someone withholds his F, knowing you and the S you did in high school, and lights your cigarette. Some wooing chases a bottle into the wet undergrowth. Someone at a demonstration, someone demonstrates patience. My grandma was patient, chopstick celery into my bowl. My great aunt reminded me that I was lonely and read me printouts from a matchmaker. Some girl returning home from America, is this also her story? Some apartment building where this happened, a family gathering. Some families are formalities, but some love each other so much as when they laugh, their heads throw back, as in effing, someone secretly sighs and looks up to the light. My father sighed and looked up to the light. Grandpa is writing a short story. In this story, a young man returns to Shanghai after 30 years and, while relearning the local dialect, is jailed for spying. Grandpa occupied the living room to interrogate the young man with his pen. Tucking your shirt, father patted me on the head. In the summer of 1985, my hair was an abandoned field of bamboos. I widened my eyes, a wobbly lamp, yellowed ceiling, all my toys hidden in a box by the wall. A wind banged tirelessly on the window, like a young man without a cigarette. I saw him come in and throw himself into the rattan chair. 5 more minutes, he mumbled through chapped lips. An editor, a policeman? All I could hear was a click in my father's throat. I was thirsty too, but wanted the room for myself. My hands itchy in my pockets, counting among my friends a chimney and a white water tower. 1933. No chimneys or water towers in sight. A boy counted flowers covering the bodies of his dead friends. The Japanese bayonets shiny like family letters. In 755, Li Bai wrote a letter home before joining his wife, but didn't know the town civil war was a few months away. He died in 762. Also in 762, the Abbasid dynasty began its golden age in the new capital of Baghdad, which would last until 1517 when the last caliph in name surrendered to the Ottomans. Reading history in his father's study, wiping dust off the book spines, the boy thought of empires, an ever beautiful invasive species. 1618, the Third Defenestration of Prague. 1918, World War I. Chinese laborers built trenches for Entente powers. Who was alive in 1949 for a plot of land? The boy was counting again, his imagination flourishing in his empty belly. He asked me yesterday, "Who are you?" And I wondered which answer wouldn't surprise him. Also yesterday, how he saved up peanuts for a girl outside a bomb shelter. What happened to her? I didn't dare to look back. I didn't dare to look. Do you? Tonight, time is a reaping machine. I sit in my room wondering what power I have if I'm choking up because I haven't been writing enough. Who would I blame? What if this happened? A poet stole my ration, traded all of it for a cup of wine. His wife worked at the jar factory and lost 2 fingers. His son snores and gives me the finger. Tonight, I have a pen to set things straight. I offer them more than what they wished for. The poet, a lifetime of doggerel, the wife, another alcoholic. As for the son who wanted to blow up the world, his tomb will be full of flowers. I'll visit him every third Wednesday, bring him fresh lilies like glitter under the sun. I will tell him all the stories in the world, how everyone forgets everyone else and lives happily ever after, how every morning now is such a delight. There's only the news of blissful, blissful marriages, between chairs and wardrobes, between birds and diligent flies. Thank you.
Just gorgeous. Thank you, Weijia, so much. So many beautiful, striking, haunting images. But I love the idea of the line "time is a reaping machine." Just incredible. And then tonight, I have a pen to set things straight. And what a wonderful encapsulation of the power of writing and poetry, especially. Thank you so much for that poem. Next, we have Phil Sandenis Sanchez, who is a Creole poet from New Orleans. His work has appeared or is forthcoming in Best New Poets, Poetry International, Tinderbox Poetry Journal, and elsewhere. His poem, Monarchs Are the Communication Medium for When I Die, was a finalist for Poetry International CP Cavafy Prize. And his chapbook, Watch Out for Falling Bullets, was a finalist for the Atlas Reviews and Button Poetry's chapbook contests, and a notable manuscript for Boat's chapbook contest, a semifinalist for the 2020 Discovery Prize. He has received scholarships to attend Breadloaf Writers Conference and presented at AWP on creating collaborations between poetry and music. Button Poetry recently published his debut collection, Before and After Our Bodies, in 2025. He studied music theory and composition at the City College of New York, records under the name Sandenise Sanchez, and currently lives in Brooklyn. Welcome, Phil.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Need my help?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, I'm so sorry. We're going back and forth between my keyboard player's phone, which is all the audio running through, and my own. Um, Give us 10 seconds, 15 seconds. We'll be ready.
Oh, yeah, I know what to do here.
Also just been incredible being like with all these amazing poets, just some incredible work to be in the company with and also to be in conversation with. Thank you so much to Adroit for that. I'm going to be reading a piece from my newly published book. It's called Before and After Our Bodies. It's out on Button Poetry. It's called Middle School and Other Initiations. I'll be accompanied by my keyboard player, Henry Ramon.
It's gonna work right now. I'm rejoining, guys. Just let me in.
He's rejoining right now. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm just going to be reading one poem. You got it, Henry?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Can everyone hear Henry?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Mute your mic.
Hopefully.
Mute your mic. The test is muting your mic.
No,
No.
They can hear me. They said yes.
No, mute your mic on your
Okay.
camera.
All right. Hold on. How do I?
I got you. I'm Phil's technical director, everyone. Hold on.
All right. I'm just gonna thank you for the enthusiasm, Maggie. All right. We're gonna do accompanied work because that's usually how I read, but I think I'm just gonna read without it. So this is middle school.
No, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
play. No, yo.
You got it?
It's just gonna be in the room.
Okay. All right, cool. So Henry's gonna go with us. It's gonna we were trying to go direct into the setup. So
It's not working.
all right. So this is called Middle School and Other Initiations. It was probably the hardest piece to write in the whole book. But in some ways, it's the piece I'm most proud of. Does this sound good? Can everyone hear me well? All right, cool. So there's actually a sectional. Hey, Henry, can you turn it down some? Can you turn yourself down some? Thanks. There's a sectional epigraph here from Bell Hooks, and it says the first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is not violence towards women. Instead, patriarchy demands of all males that they engage in acts of psychic self-mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves. If an individual is not successful in emotionally crippling himself, he can count on patriarchal men to enact rituals of power that will assault his self-esteem. You ready, brother?
Ready.
All right, let's please turn off the metronome, my guy. All right. All right, middle school and other initiations. 1. The first time I really saw the stars, they hit me. First time they hit me, I really saw the stars. Pleiades and their oceanic mother washed over my nymph body, still childing idyllic and on the cusp of shifting constellations. The second strike loosened Orion's belt, and I saw the world fall out of myself. I lay naked on the concrete through the rest of the strikes, while all the stars watched and told me I wasn't enough. In every way, I wasn't enough. What the fuck is that? Who the fuck is that? Said the stars, like they were destiny, but they had human bodies and human names, like Max and Nick and Chris. Even as they violated me from above, I tried to talk to the gods, but most of who are also above me. So who and where was I? And how could a child know the difference between that and how they side? 2, the words where my lips have been, the voice my throat will one day make sonorous, the names my body knew as mine. There's nothing left of me but the after flash of butterfly wings leaving the path. Leaving the path is the only way to become what I need to become. I got kicked out of public schools in 7th grade. I'd already been pumping since late that winter anyway. How did they let me stay after we bravehearted the private school next door? I told them not to run their mouths just because they had numbers for a brief moment. The next day, when their school let out, we charged them 100 deep and sent everyone fleeing back inside and bolting the door. They kept it pushing after that. My best friend hated me, but we were both wild and uncontrollable. I heard his dad had connects in Colombia, and I had friends in places he couldn't walk. He had 5 enemies for every friend. I was the opposite, so we were useful to each other. When he was killed in the middle of a house party for smacking one of his runners around, everyone saw it coming. I heard it was the largest obstruction of justice filing outside of a RICO in the history of the country. They made the whole house party bury the body and swore them to secrecy. She swore me to secrecy, so I can't tell you how much older she was when she went down on me in the woods in the summer between 8th and 9th grade. But I will tell you she drove us there. She tried to swallow me, but I just hit throat and hit the back of throat and touched throat and some eternal hunger. She swallowed the life at the end of desire and told me to watch porn and compare. Like maybe I have a future, new eyes, a body worthy of life, and the L I like to lean harder into breath. The L leans me back into the hardest relax. I drip the coconut oil down the length to slow the light, let the shine beckon angels. Bathing in the screen, I study the bounce, freeze the bodies, and hold myself up to compare. My width is clear, and I feel my new power stretch the air. Hard to say on length, I'm almost there. But most of all, I'm finding beauty where I was first taught shape, smooth with the turquoise and amethyst veins, light beneath my olive skin, my purple radiating deep night is quiet and needing nothing. I relax into God's mind. Lord, I lean into the sun, even when it's not out. You can be who you want to be, I tell myself. You don't have to be powerless. And I soak in my power. Still, I awake depowered and shaking it, wondering where it went. Its states seem infinite, and I oscillate with them. I count at least eight arrests that I can remember. The first was for Grand Theft Auto, but I was 12 and just a backseat passenger. They thought I'd break when I came home to a detective at my family's kitchen table the next year, but I was just moving ounces and I knew they didn't have anything on me. They just wanted me for whom I knew in my infinite time. God, I felt like I knew everyone. Freddie and I laughed ourselves through the smoke the last time he sold me a QP. He gave me an extra bag for free right before Samuel Scheinbein and Needle killed him with a sawed off and burned the body. Scheinbein fled to Israel, and the US somehow lost the extradition battle to a country whose existence it funds. I heard about my dead friend on the news for a full year, including from my dad when he was in Gaza, while bombs in the background decorated his voice on the phone as it carried across so many walls to get to me. Their thunder signaling so many deaths. Ahmed wasn't even a teenager. 3. I wasn't even a teenager when I hotboxed the playhouse in my grandmother's backyard, let the front door yawn smoke and hop the fence on my way to Martin's for Muffaletta. I heard fireworks that weren't fireworks. I saw fire dance from one car window to another, like when you love someone so much, you turn their world to nothing but light, light leaving a seashell repeating the ocean, how I wept when Carlos didn't make it. He was my favorite Carlos too. Big Carlos tried to show me his dick while we were high in Brian's backyard. I got a glimpse and told him he wasn't doing himself any favors. But the Carlos who got shot in front of his grandmother's building in the summer between 7th and 8th grade had such a good heart and was way more fun to get high with. He was in love with V just like everyone else, but he still gave me props after I hooked up with her behind the tennis wall during social studies. She gave me slow blessings and slow love. Let love slow. Carlos with a good heart got aired out in front of his abuela's building, left him full of quiet windows and good questions. Good questions leaking all over the street, himself, everywhere beyond himself, where the brightest star is left alone. In a clear mirror, I gaze up and down the length of my lost self, wondering where I've been hiding inside myself. Let unseen beauty clear my path. Keep me safe in this dark world. Taste the victory spilling from me slowly, love. Slow love, I've beautifuled my way back to you for good this time. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for your patience. Henry Ramon.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Henry. That was beautiful production, and it was worth the wait. And we enjoyed the intrigue, getting everything set up. And somebody wrote in the comments, beautiful lighting, which I agree. I was very, very pleasant experience. And what a vulnerable musical, just incredible grief-filled poem. So much I enjoyed, but I think especially your line, finding beauty where I was taught shame. That's something to really internalize. So thank you so much. Our last reader tonight is Brian Tier. Brian Tier is a 2020 Guggenheim Fellow and the author of 7 critically acclaimed books of poetry, including Doomsday Days, winner of the 4 Quartets Prize, and Poem Bitten by a Man, winner of the William Carlos Williams Award. A selected essay's textual preference will be out from Nightboat in 2027. A professor of poetry at the University of Virginia, Brian lives in Charlottesville, where he makes books by hand for his micropress, All Being Books. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been such a great reading, and I'm honored to be reading with all of you. I am going to read an excerpt from the poem that will be coming out or going live on Thursday. I could explain a lot, but I don't want to. I want you to just kind of go on the ride. I'm going to read like 7 minutes of it, and then hopefully you'll be able to read the rest of it, or hopefully you'll want to read the rest of it when it comes out on Thursday. The title of the poem is "A Stranger is an Animal Who Doesn't Sing." And it has an epigraph from the Greek poet Yannis Ritsos, translated by Spring Ulmer. And the epigraph reads, "We read our history clearly in the flight and cries of the bird." And just to give you a note, I started writing this poem the day of the inauguration. When it is time to study hatred again, sparrows gather bicker in the forsythia. I tend, like I tend the life of the mind, its leafless thicket, a tangle of lines, other voices live in. I think if I transcribe enough sentences in the notebook, I will find a form that has a hate I can tolerate. My first teacher of poetry liked to quote Lowell, pity the monsters, which pissed me off. It was the 90s. My lover was dying of AIDS. Too bad, he's going to hell, my mother said, with all the others. I loathed pity and monstrosity as discourses about politics, exerting power over who lived and who died, who was mourned, and who deserved it. By decade's end, I earned 2 degrees in the literature of compulsory heterosexuality, and still don't know if that was shelter or injury or both. I still don't know what to do with words that draw calamity closer as I write. I hear the house sparrows. I was taught I had to tell apart from song sparrows and the several finches who flock without much song. I was also taught to say hello without judgment to each thought as it steps forward, sheer meaningless there-ness amidst the mind's bare declaratives. Hello, now go, I write, I say, to this midwinter fact of existing, as long as each moment presents what happens. Not so that I awaken to the excellence of this life, Yvonne Rainer writes, but so that I awaken to the ways I have been taught this life is excellent, just, and right. This is one part of the difficulty. Another part is the sparrows I was taught to keep from breeding. English sparrows, I was taught to call them invasive species, who in one season produce 3 broods and outcompete cavity nesting native passerines who produce fewer. I was also taught to destroy their nests and bar the birdhouse entrance hole until a bit later in the season when bluebirds start nesting, which is what I did, despite believing passer domesticus, a blameless form the world thought to take and keeps on thinking, beaks adapted to distinguish seed from whole, upper mandible, lower mandible. My mind grinds against itself, parenthetical, endlessly opening, continuous, shrill, monotonous, Noisy chirping reads one guide, pretty shady for ornithology, though David Allen Sibley writes in a tone I don't care for either, of monotonous, nearly identical chirps. In the realm of emotion, house sparrows get a lot of hate and annoy people for not singing, like John Cage, who removed both melody and harmony from his music and wrote instead with structure and method, perhaps as queer as Zen gets, tearfully severe. He asks listeners to face attachment to the pleasures of received form and adherence to convention by refusing them. Reviews reflect the fact some resented that antisocial turn. It was the Cold War, the Pink Scare. The category is straight people having feelings in the free world. The state spread isolationist, affective textures through citizens who listened against otherness, vigilant the way they are today, no matter what, severely cheerful, Cage enthused that pure life expresses itself through structure, and wrote that everybody has a song that is no song at all. I am not so nice. What can I write about my past ethno-nationalist birdhouse phase, when bluebirds traded sweet, clipped whistles with their fledgling? I was not proud. I started to feel I had been taught to save blue bloods from what birders like to call little brown birds, and I totally did. I sit with this for a long time, by which I mean until it snows. For a long time is a phrase I love. Within it, I feel the world without a self fall into folds, laid the sheets in a signature, in a book, all pasts collapse together, a past becoming my own. The way I read that it is true that house sparrows were introduced to the US in Brooklyn, in Greenwood in 1852, but it is not true that the man, Eugene Schieffelin, who soon released more sparrows near his house in Madison Square, wanted to populate Central Park with every bird in Shakespeare's plays. An anxious nativist at the American Museum of Natural History made that up. The truth is just this bird some people liked or believed useful. Maybe they were kids in other countries and saw sparrows make dust wallows and loved the sight and brought them here without knowing much about them, and found cheerful what another guide calls their incessant, tuneless peeping. For 173 years, the bird has remained non-native, invasive, a flexible symbol in a long series of constructions, government reports, scientific studies, satirical poems, moral editorials, and testy letters to citizens once sent to newspapers to complain about immigrant finches, dissipated urban dwellers, rich in vices, wretched foreigners, feathered reprobates, lazy little louts, self-willed and violent, hard characters full of impudence and pugnacity, alien vermin, rowdy little gammon, disgusting exotics, fond of fighting and lovemaking, stormy and ignoble domestic tyrants. The little Saxons copulated freely and scandalized scientific men of the period, stopwatches in hand, watched 14 successive bouts of intercourse at a rate of 5 seconds per act, with 5-second intervals between. And I will end there on fucking sparrows. But hopefully you will read the rest of the poem about the Sparrow Wars and its relationship to today's politics and genocide. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. It's going to be hard to wait until Thursday to finish your poem. So gorgeous. When you hit that point at the end where it's a litany of descriptions that people have used to describe these sparrows. I had chills. I know all of us did, I'm sure. I was watching the comments. Your poem also reminded me of a line in Wage's poem where he compared invasive species to empires. So it's just so amazing, so beautiful. Thank you to all of our readers. This was so special. I enjoyed hearing you read so much. Congratulations to our winners and our readers or our poets who are appearing in issue 55. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. One note before everybody disperses, we are still open for general submissions until November 1st. So if you'll have any poems, send them our way. And thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.